Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Thursday. I hope the week is going well wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. Doing things a little bit differently today. As you can see, I'm joined by James Benge of CBS Sports. Usually this is an evening thing, but this week we're doing it as a morning thing. So how are you doing, James? You good?
No. I'm too tired for this.
You're too tired.
I don't get into sports journalism to work mornings. I get, I have no children, so I don't have to be around in the morning. I mean, like, this is a disgrace. The viewers don't want this. I don't want this. What are we doing?
What do you mean the viewers don't want this? They watch me every morning.
I read
every day of the week. This is what I do. But I agree, it is early morning. That's why I've got my coffee. And for people who wouldn't have seen what I've just did, this is take 2 because we got about 2 minutes into the first recording, and I took a sip of that coffee and managed to put it all down the wrong way and cough my guts up on the screen. So I've had to redo this. So I will drink my coffee more carefully from now on. But I mean, how's the week been? I presume you've been sitting down watching the Champions League over the last sort of 48 hours or so.
Yeah, I mean, the football's been absolutely thrilling. I mean, the City Madrid game was hardly one to inspire optimism for those who are hoping that City will do a number on Liverpool at the weekend. But I mean, did you watch any of Celtic Bayern Munich?
I did, actually. I watched pretty much all of Celtic versus Bayern Munich. It was a really, really good game. I mean, it was gutting for Celtic at the end. Absolutely. You kind of sensed something was coming in that last 10 minutes. I thought the last 5 minutes, they were dropping deeper and deeper and deeper. And there was a couple of sort of half chances for Bayern. But yeah, I mean, they didn't deserve that, Celtic. They really at least deserved to get another 30 minutes in extra time.
A brilliant performance. I hadn't realised they've never won a Champions League knockout tie, like in the era of Champions League. The cruelest way. And I think that this new competition has been really good for just like throwing in a bit more drama and a bit more surprises. I mean, you've seen good teams like Atalanta and AC Milan probably knocked out by the sort of teams that you wouldn't really get in the round of 16 before. I mean, I think this Champions League has worked really well, and the last fortnight has been a great advertisement for why you need to get in the top 8, because the minute you're in knockout football, anything can happen. Bayern nearly went out. City are out. Juventus, well, no one will miss Juventus but Milan, teams that would have had real aspirations of the quarterfinals or better, and they're off the card. And from Arsenal's perspective now, we'll know tomorrow, but you got to be confident that you've got a good draw for your Saka and Martinelli-less tie.
Can you imagine Theo Hernandez walking into the Milan training ground on Wednesday morning after getting himself sent off for that ridiculous dive, and then final coming back and winning that game? I bet he slinked into that training ground on Wednesday morning feeling very, very guilty.
Oh my Lord. I wonder what sort of a professional's view is of like their teammates doing that sort of stupidity, because it's not even like you were trying to win the ball, or you got a tackle badly wrong. It's sort of like you were trying to cheat to help us out, but you've really screwed the pooch here. So yeah, I can imagine that's one of those things that I must ask people that would know, that get you an awful lot of glares in the dressing room and very little sympathy.
Did you watch the Atalanta game?
No, I've seen the stats. Obviously, that's where I would look first. It sounds like Atalanta were just brutally unlucky.
Yeah. It was. It was a classic case of sort of getting picked off on the counter attack and kind of everything that could go wrong on the night going wrong on the night. Because I think they're a really good team, Atalanta. I really, really do. And that was of all the sort of teams who have gone out at this stage, I think Atalanta is the biggest surprise to me. I thought they were absolutely nailed on.
30 shots.
I thought they were absolutely just couldn't score. There was one incident when I think it was 2-0. Yeah, it was 2-0. And then Atalanta, they hit the post, hit the bar, had it cleared off the line, all in the space of like 20 seconds. And then immediately, it was Bruges, wasn't it? Bruges broke. from the third one that hit the inside of the post was cleared offline, Bruges broke down the pitch and then pinged one into the bottom corner from 25 yards on the counter and to make it 3-0. And it just summed up it was mad. It was really, really mad. But yeah, I think out of all the results, that's a shot. Right. Let me just bring this up. So this is a round of 16. These are the teams who are in it. I put this on social media earlier, and the response to it was quite interesting. There's so many people saying, "God, football's fallen off." This is this is the best chance to win it of years. And I hadn't really thought that, to be honest.
Yeah.
And but yeah, that certainly seemed to be quite a sort of reaction to that. Was that this is a relatively weak sort of group of a round of 16? Do you think that's just because some of the bigger names, the big names that we sort of go hand in hand with established European football aren't in it, like the Milan clubs, like I said, like Juventus, those sort of clubs aren't in it. But you still got the usual suspects in Paris, Real, obviously, Bayern, Barcelona,
Inter.
Inter. Maybe Man City aren't there, obviously, but it's still pretty strong.
Yeah, exactly. I would say, tell me it's dropped off when Arsenal are playing Inter, maybe in the quarters, or could be Real Madrid, couldn't it? At some stage,
I think it's if Arsenal get paired with PSV, I think then they could get Real in the quarterfinals. But if Arsenal get paired with Feyenoord, then it could be Bayern again, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly Bayern and one of the ones, Bayern and Madrid are certainly on that path, aren't they? And Inter as well. So tell me then that it's dropped off. Let alone, I mean, we're going to have in the round of 16 PSG, who right now are as good as any team in Europe. We're going to have them up against Liverpool and one of Liverpool or Barcelona. We know that for certain. There's actually a really good field.
When you think back to what PSG were like at the Emirates earlier in the season, when Arsenal absolutely comfortably beat them 2-0, literally kept them at arm's length for 90 minutes. And then you're looking at this PSG now. It's like that comeback win against Man City, that second half against Man City, has just completely and utterly transformed them into this, instead of young, inexperienced, pretty toothless team, there's suddenly this young, inexperienced, swashbuckling team who are just putting teams to the sword with their attacking play. They just look, it's a completely different side than what we saw at the Emirates at the start of the season.
Yeah, I would be very scared, but from an Arsenal perspective, you're just delighted to know that one of the top 4 teams in the field beyond Arsenal are going to get knocked out. From that Bayern, Liverpool, Barcelona, Liverpool, PSG matchup. So, I mean, I think it's actually quite good. And part of the sort of fun of the Champions League is I don't think you would necessarily just want the 16 best teams in Europe. Give me most of the top 10 or 12 and then sprinkle in some fun teams who might do something. We've seen Lille get big results in the league phase. PSV as well. Was it PS or was it Feyenoord? I can't remember which one of them beat Bayern Munich 3-0. So yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of quite a pleasantly balanced league phase, and I think Arsenal have got the luck of the draw in the round of 16. But from then on, they're going to have to be good. They're going to have Saka and Martinelli absolutely humming, and they're going to have to get lucky.
Got a few questions on it or comments on it. Aaron says, it seems like we'll be facing Feyenoord or PSV in round of 16. If we do face Feyenoord, I think it'll be the game of the year. With narratives for Arsenal, never thought RVP was a great coach anyway in his days at Heerenveen, and matching up with Feyenoord might mean we face Bayern in the quarterfinal compared to PSV and possible Real Madrid fixture in the other half. No disrespect to Feyenoord, but facing them and winning big against them might just make our days better. Charlie says, so PSV or Feyenoord, likely to be managed by a certain RVP in the last 16. Let's take nothing for granted, of course. But at the beginning of the Champions League season, if we were offered Dutch opposition in the last 16, we would have all taken that. Yeah, can't disagree with that. Mason says, looking ahead to the Champions League, is it correct that the second leg is at the Emirates? Yes, it is correct. If so, I think this is a huge win for us in theory. I much prefer the idea of being hard to beat in the first leg away from home and then having a home advantage in the final leg to get us through, especially with the way we might have to play due to our makeshift attack. Yeah, I mean, you look at the last couple of, obviously last season, Bayern, the second leg was in Munich, and that didn't exactly help Arsenal. The round before that, Porto second leg was at the Emirates. Arsenal managed to get through. It's definitely a big boost having a second leg at home, even though the whole away goals thing doesn't count anymore or anything like that. But just having that second leg at home is definitely a plus.
I think especially for a team that's still a little bit inexperienced in the Champions League, I think you want to have the big moments in front of what Mikel Arteta would call your people. What do you think? No. I'm trying to work out the right way. What's the loudest you've ever heard the Emirates? Would you say Nelson?
Oh, Reece Nelson. Yeah, I've never heard experience.
Do you think the boos when Robin van Persie leads Feyenoord out at the Emirates will in any way eclipse that? Because I'm not ruling it out entirely.
It will be loud. It will definitely be loud, no doubt about that. But no, I don't think it certainly won't eclipse that. I'm trying to think of the person who's been booed the most at the end. I mean, Ashley Cole, I suppose, when he first came back. That was pretty brutal. Although he had the last laugh by pretty much winning every single game he ever played at the Emirates when he played for Chelsea.
But I think Van Persie as opposition manager would go down horrendously. Because there was a moment, wasn't there, about 3 or 4 years ago when you're doing a bit of punditry work and you're sort of trying to get him along to Arsenal games, and people were, his voice, people, organisations were trying to sort of get Van Persie into the Arsenal pundit class, and the entire Arsenal fan base were like, "Don't care what you got to say, mate. Not bothered. You got nothing for us."
Yeah, no, he'll certainly be public enemy number one. He's not actually got the job yet, though, has he? He's not. He's all the talk is he's going to get it, but he's not. He's not been given it yet, has he? I mean, whoever's in interim charge there has just put himself in the shop window. Surely we've going to San Siro and winning.
You would like to think so, wouldn't you? But what was it? Was it Ornstein had it last night? So
Did he? What that Van Persie's about to take it? Oh, I didn't see that.
And we know when David reports something, it's always that sort of grey nethersphere where you're like, shouldn't just take it as fact, but let's be honest.
Oh yeah, but Feyenoord on the verge of appointing Van Persie as head coach. 41 currently leading Heerenveen, but agreement between all parties expected to be struck on Thursday. Yeah, so Robin Van Persie, if the draw does mix Arsenal with Feyenoord, then Van Persie is coming back. Of Arsenal, I'm trying to think of Arsenal previous. I've said so many Arsenal PSV games. Arsenal Feyenoord. Arsenal Feyenoord
doesn't ring a bell. It might have been a group stage game.
I'm trying to think. When I search for it, all I can see is stories about Robin van Persie at the moment.
Thanks for nothing, modern football media. Yeah. All I would say is I just want to put on the record here: no matter who Feyenoord draw, if Robin van Persie is in charge, I hope they get absolutely tonked.
Let's have a look. Arsenal. I don't think they've ever played Feyenoord.
Why?
Before
Rotterdam, by the way, nice little away trip. That you can get there on the train nice and easily.
Yeah, I don't know yet. I'm in an iron about what I'm going to do because I'm potentially not around for the quarterfinal first leg, and I want to do one of the away trips in this round or the quarterfinals if we get there. So I might well go to whoever.
I mean, I've never been to Eindhoven, but everyone that has sort of not been minded to rush back. But Rotterdam's, I've had some got great memories in Rotterdam. So
great stadium as well. Great stadium, cracking atmosphere.
Yeah, it's one of those ones you want to sort of get a chance to go to.
Yeah, so the draw's tomorrow, obviously, isn't it? And the draw to the final then gets mapped out tomorrow, isn't it? You know the path, to the final. So yes, that's going to be an interesting one. Keep an eye on. Right, get your financial hat on, Mr. Ben. You're far better at this than I am. So Arsenal's finances for 23-24 came out yesterday. Headlines were, record revenues from the club. Pretty much everything heading upwards as you would expect, but still a loss for Arsenal of 17.7 million for the year end, which is quite significantly down on what it was before that, which was 52 million in 2023. But I think a lot of people have been surprised that Arsenal have made. I have to admit, I was surprised. I thought maybe this was a year we'd see a slight sort of profit for the first time since Wenger's days. I think it would have been, wouldn't it? But still a 17.7 million, which isn't an insignificant amount. But yeah, when you sort of look at the headlines and you think player sales has gone up, pretty much all revenue, commercial, broadcast, match day revenues all shot up. But that big sort of wages number has also shot up drastically. And in the end, Arsenal made a loss. So what were your thoughts on those? And explain it all to us if you can.
Yeah, like you say, I mean, from a starting point of view, I know that in the world of football, hearing the word loss is never good, but I think we should say, in the context of financial results, as a fan base, and I mean, honestly, even as an organisation, while you don't want your club to be losing hand over mouth, and we only have to go back to 2021 when this loss was in the nine figures, in the hundreds of millions or over 100 million. It's not a big deal to lose money, and you certainly wouldn't want to be supporting a profitable football club, because that money should be going back into strengthening the squad. The aim of a football club, not to be profitable, to win trophies. So yeah, like you say, Charles, like the big underlying premise behind the loss here is that although revenue's up to £600 million, and we should say that's right across the board, there's been big upswings naturally in match day and broadcasting from Champions League football being back in 23-24, and from commercial. And that commercial is going to go up even more, because I believe next year is the first year of the new Adidas kit deal, which is worth quite a lot more money. But last season, the wage bill exploded, frankly, in a good way, I suppose.
So let me just give you the numbers for that. So wages increased to 327.8 million. So, and that's up from 234 million. So basically sort of 90 million pound rise in wages. Yeah,
Rice, Havertz, I believe as well new deals are coming on as well then for Saka, Saliba. That, for context, that's putting Arsenal around the same level as Chelsea and Liverpool, not at the United and certainly not at the Man City level of expenditure on wages. Arsenal have still probably got about the fifth highest wage bill in the Premier League, and we know that the one thing that's most predictive financially of where you're going to finish in the table is your wage bill. I mean, the other things to note when we're sort of looking ahead to next year, you can see there that profit on sale of player registration, that's 52 million from the likes of Flo Balogun. That number, Granit Xhaka was in there as well, and obviously he was pure profit by the time he left. That number will be really high again, because you've got your Eddie Nketiah, Emile Smith-Rowe sales. What else really stood out to me? I have to say the one thing that intrigues me and I'm impressed with is that commercial growth. But we should say Arsenal are still a long way behind. And
you would expect that would go up quite significantly this year as well, because that's going to be sort of factoring in the Champions League as well, wouldn't it? That last season Champions League, that will be included in this year's accounts, won't it?
So we're looking at the first year of the Champions League, 23-24.
Okay.
Yeah, it's always really fiddly. And I always struggle to remember. So yeah, this is 2023-24 money, but Arsenal will at the very least end up this season playing as many games in the Champions League. But probably we think, based on the likely draw, they will get at least 2 more Champions League games, which is always a plus, because they are
commercial went up to 218 million from 169 million, and that a big chunk of that is the Shoba Realty Training Centre as well.
Shoba Realty, yeah. You can chuck Adidas in, and there has been a real upswing in sort of partnerships that Arsenal have found, and they talk about their commercial strategy being a huge success. The one thing to be aware of that's sort of lurking in the background amid the broader Premier League and Man City cases is how much money Arsenal owe to KSE, which I don't think is on that balance sheet. It's now at 324 million in owner loans. A lot of that wouldn't be included in any future PSR calculations, because they're historic loans.
It's not going to be backdated, is it?
No, we're not expecting that, but it'll be interesting to see. I mean, also in general, it's not great to owe your owner a lot of money.
No.
Should the owner come to sell?
But a large chunk of that is also the stadium debt, isn't it? That the owners took on, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's manageable, but it's one of those things to just think like, this is going to be a topic of conversation. This is going to be something that City are going to try and leverage quite heavily and say, why is it okay that Arsenal can carry £320 million of debt to their owner on the balance sheet, and yet you're looking at us for the deals we have with Etihad? I mean, I know what I think about that, and that is it's different. But potentially, if Arsenal don't have that ability in the future to sort of rely on money from KSE to help with big money signings, it'll be complicated. And they're just finally on the PSR position. These 23-24 accounts would have wiped out I think 2021, which was the year of the £100 million plus loss. Things are trending really well because you take out things like you're spending on women's football, academy. There's many community work as well, and I think probably in PSR terms, people would know better. But my guess would be you're probably even looking at a profitable year on the PSR balance sheet, which allows you to then, as we always like to put these in these terms, it allows you to then use some of that financial muscle in the summer transfer window. And I think Arsenal are in a really good position to invest a good chunk of money in their squad if that's what they choose to do, and if they can find the guys to spend it on.
I think what these do show is just how much difference Champions League football makes to a club's revenue is just absolutely huge, isn't it?
Champions League football in a 60,000 stadium, it's the vision that the Emirates was built on, and then Chelsea and Man City came along and warped it, but actually we're sort of returning a little bit to normality, and it's about things like how can you sweat your asset and all that. How can you use that 60,000 stadium? One fun thing that's just in the right at the top of the report: 50,000 average capacity at the Emirates when they host the women's team. Amazing. And
yeah,
as we're talking about in financial terms, it's an incredible way to just increase your takings. I know they'll charge less than they do for Premier League games, but like you're building a bigger fan base for your club, both men's and women's. You're using this asset you have that lies empty 300 days a year. You're getting more use out of that. I think that's a big hit, and Arsenal are in a very lucky, well, not lucky. They're in a very good position that they can exploit that, hopefully, for years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, match day revenue went up to 131 million from 102 million. And broadcast revenue up 262 from 191. So, yeah, Champions League football certainly makes a big difference. You're right there about the women's team, and it was brilliant watching the North London derby again at the weekend. 56,000 pretty much there, and the atmosphere is fantastic. And yeah, it is a very, very good thing. So look, I know lots of you were asking in the comments yesterday to find out a little bit more about the finance. I hope James has certainly given you more insight than I would ever be able to do. I can't even count the change in my pocket at times. I'm so bad when it comes to maths, which is why I pay an accountant and very much need to pay an accountant, or I'd probably end up in jail because I would do things so terribly wrong, not on purpose, but I would end up doing things wrong. So yeah, thanks for that, James. Appreciate your insight. Right. This was I spoke about Tommy on yesterday's show, and the Arsenal statement came out a couple of hours after I recorded, and this is what Arsenal had to say. Tomiyasu has undergone a successful surgery on his right knee, which he first sustained in pre-season, despite an initial surgical procedure in August, followed by a return to full training and featuring as a sub in a home game against Southampton in October. Tommy continued to have issues with his knee, resulting in a further corrective surgical procedure. Tommy will now begin his recovery and rehab program, which is expected to be completed towards the end of this year. So not just Tommy out for this season, but out for a large chunk of next season as well, when he'll be into his final year of his contract. Obviously, really bad news for him, first of all. Bad news for Mikel Arteta and the squad as well, because we know when he's fit and available what a huge asset is to this squad with his versatility and his quality. But really tough times for Tomiyasu.
I'm devastated for the guy. He has had a tough few years. I'm just looking at the numbers now, how many games he's managed to play for Arsenal as well. It like you say, what's so infuriating or disappointing for Tommy and for Arsenal supporters? Yeah, 84 games since he's arrived. And so many of those, so few of those 84 have been anything less than exemplary. Like, he is really, really good at football. He's so valuable to have in the squad. That's why you would give him the new contract, why you did to take you up to 2026, because if you can get him fit, he gives you cover in every position across the back line. He's a fantastic defender. When you put him at right back, he's a really valuable creative player. Adds a lot to the squad. Excellent work ethic by all accounts, from what I hear when you ask people about Tommy, and really well admired. And yet, you sort of feel like the best case scenario now is that Tommy gets a few games next season, so that he doesn't kind of leave in that Cazorla-esque way where, and I know Cazorla's greater player, but that he gets a chance to do a sort of goodbye lap, whether it's in the FA Cup next season. I know that maybe he might be back to play some games in December, but he'll have basically gone over a year and a half without football. I don't think we're ever going to get to sort of see Tomiyasu as a regular starter for Arsenal again. But I do hope we get to see him in an Arsenal kit again, because I don't want it to end this way. He's a good egg.
Yeah, it's a real shame. It's a real shame. I remember at the time when he signed the contract, I was like, I think it's a pretty good decision from Arsenal. I've had so much grief on that on this channel in the comments.
You're right, though.
I remember you saying, Charles, that it was a good deal, and I did think it was a good deal at the time. I could see why Arsenal did it. Yes, he'd had injury issues, nothing like what we've seen since then. No one could foresee that this was going to happen. Yes, he's had injury issues, but he was still tended to be around for at least half the season. No one could have expected him to be out for this long. But like you said, he's so valuable. He's your dream as a manager if he's fit. If you're a Mikel Arteta, if you're any manager, you dream of having a player like Tomiyasu in your squad who's so good in positions across the entire back line. You can help fill out in any position. That's so valuable. And so that's why I could absolutely see why they gave him a deal. And it was only a short-term deal to potentially protect themselves from this sort of thing happening. So I did think at the time it was a worthwhile deal. And I still think that now. Obviously, it hasn't panned out well because of what's gone on. But I can see why Arsenal absolutely did it. I think this will be the last. He's not going to get. I'd be very surprised if he gets a new contract after this. There is an option for another year. Yes, there is an option for another year. And, you wouldn't rule it out absolutely completely, because if you do get him fit, then maybe for a year that saves you having to sign another defender for a year. So I wouldn't rule it out completely, but it's unlikely. I think you've probably at this point, you've got to think we can't really rely on him. So you'd have to move him on. But I can understand why I did it. And just for him, though, Arteta's spoken about it, how they let him go back to Japan to just find a decent headspace, because it must be so tough for him what he's been through. And I think first and foremost, you've got to think of Tomiyasu in a situation like this, because he is, like you said, he's such a popular figure behind the scenes. Everyone likes him. He's an absolute model professional, just works so hard, and this will be killing him. As he said in his statement that he put out on his Instagram, this is the thing he loves doing and he can't do it. And it must be so hard for a footballer. I don't care how much money you get paid. When this is your career, you love doing it, you've worked so hard to get in this position, to not be able to do it for a year, it's just so tough mentally to be able to deal with. So hopefully he gets a lot of support as well during this time, and the rehab goes well and we do see him again in an Arsenal shirt.
Yeah, I really hope so. I mean, even, when you're talking about him, the player as well, I'm like, oh, yeah, if he just gets that 3-4 months, he talked me into taking up that option, because I know the talent of the player. I loved it in that first season. They sort of hung up crosses towards the back post with his right foot when he was playing at right back. Yeah, it's fantastic. And I think the sort of joy of everyone dismissing Tomiyasu as a panic signing, or many people dismissing Tomiyasu as a panic signing, and him being, redolent of that moment where Arsenal's entire, trajectory pivoted on that one window, and how they aced so many signings. I kind of think everyone that came into the club that summer is always going to have a very special place in the heart of Arsenal fans, and Tomiyasu right there among them for sure.
Yeah, he's a very popular player, no doubt. Obviously, you're watching the Champions League last night with Real Madrid, but a very big game was going on domestically as well in terms of the Premier League. Liverpool dropping 2 points with a draw at Aston Villa. So, is it on? I was speaking to a mate on WhatsApp before this game. And I was like, don't matter. To be honest, it doesn't matter what happens. We're not going to win it. I just think Liverpool will win too many games, and Arsenal, we're not going to score enough goals to win pretty much every game, to take advantage of any slip up if it does come from Liverpool. But then at full time, I messaged him back. I was like, sod it, it's coming home. We're doing it. It's ours. So yeah, I managed to change my mind in about 90 minutes. But obviously, Liverpool's still in a very commanding position. But they have, I think it's just, they've drawn 2 of the last 3 games, haven't they? The win in between that was very sketchy against Wolves, where they easily could have dropped points. Didn't even have a single shot on or off target in the second half at Anfield in that game, which is mad. First time since 2004 that's happened. So they are just showing.
They're wobbling.
It is a little bit, isn't it? It's beginning to feel like that for the first time, which is understandable. It's going to happen at some point. They're not losing though. That's the thing. They're still managing to make sure they pick up points during this wobble. Again, yesterday, deflected goal for one of them. Another one was an awful back pass that just put it on a plate for Jota, who set up Salah, of course. So they took advantage of those situations. Did you see any of the game? Have you watched any highlights or anything like that?
Yeah, I switched over at halftime in the Madrid game immediately as Alexander-Arnold scored, and was around until that quite spectacular Darwin Núñez miss. If anyone's not seen it, I think even Axel Disasi, who was there defending it, was so convinced that Darwin Núñez couldn't miss the open goal that was provided for him by Szoboszlai that he was sort of celebrating because he was like, well, I must have deflected it. I didn't feel myself deflect it, but I must have, because how else has he missed? Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the stats. You think this is a game that Liverpool should have won convincingly. Sort of same after the Everton game as well. And I wouldn't feel confident that City are going to do Arsenal some favours, but I don't know, maybe a draw. And I know what you mean about
see that game ending in a draw. I cannot see that game ending in a draw at all. Either City somehow, just click and score a load of goals, but I can't see at the other end. But I see nothing, and I'm not saying this hoping, hoping that I'm wrong. I cannot see anything but Liverpool winning that game. The way City play and the way Liverpool play, I just think City is so perfect for Liverpool to pick off in transition. I just think they're just going to run through them. I'd be very, very surprised. I would, I fancied them to potentially drop points here at Villa Park.
Yeah,
I absolutely do not fancy them to drop points at the Etihad. I can't. I hope I'm wrong, obviously from an Arsenal point of view, but I can't see it. This City team are so easy to play against that whenever they come up against a semi-decent team, City, they just look bang average. And I'd be very surprised if Liverpool don't pick up maximum points at City.
I would just say, if Erling Haaland's back and you have Haaland and Marmoush together, I really like that partnership. I love the sort of false nine stuff that Haaland does with Marmoush. That maybe then City can score enough to make up for the fact that, like you say, they can't stop Liverpool. And it's at the Etihad. There's a chance. And then after that, it's Newcastle at Anfield. And
Newcastle will roll over like they do against every other team apart from Arsenal.
Other than Arsenal.
Honestly, did you see them at the Etihad last week? The goals that they gave away. You think against Arsenal how unbelievably strong they are defensively and how much effort they put into blocking and chasing and doing everything. And then at Man City, they just literally walk out there with their white flags in the air. Like, go on then, boys, do what you want with us. It's fine.
Well,
I got no faith.
I suspect there's probably some Middle Eastern politics there that we're unaware of.
They turn into
the one thing I would say is it's Liverpool, it's Newcastle. My brain just sort of feels the 90s all over again.
Yeah,
and I know I'm pretty certain
that those days are gone.
Newcastle lost all those games. But I think then, if that's what happens and they get 6 points from those next two games, then I think the title's gone. Because then from there on, it's Southampton at home, Everton at home, Fulham away, West Ham. Like they got
Everton again. They got Everton again.
Yeah.
Of course, because the away the one at Goodison got postponed, didn't it, and got pushed back.
Yeah. So it sort of feels like there's that.
I still feel it's very, very unlikely. It's very unlikely because, like I said, Liverpool will have to continue to drop points, but not only that, Arsenal have to win every single game to give themselves a shot. And can you rely on Mikel Merino coming off the bench to score 2 goals for the next 7 games before Saka and Martinelli come back every week? I don't see that as sustainable. I hope it is. I hope I'm wrong. But look, Arsenal got to be in a position where you've got to stay in it before that game, that trip to Anfield, don't you? Which is third from last game. If you can stay within touching distance there, then you at least give yourself a chance. It'll be very hard because can you imagine what the atmosphere is going to be like at Anfield for that game? But at least if you can keep yourself just in it before you go to that game and give yourself a chance in that situation, then that's kind of all you can ask for.
10th of May. Yeah, I've told you before. I booked my honeymoon, convinced that I'd be coming back. I'm back on that final Sunday of the season. Right. Sort of convinced I'd be bombing from Heathrow down to Southampton. I was just looking at where I'm going to be watching that game. It's not going to be fun. it's not going to be fun being up at the crack of dawn or whatever it is. But yeah, like I mean, I actually think Arsenal need to pretty much be ahead of Liverpool when that game rolls around, because you can't win it. I know Arsenal can and have in the past, but somehow they really need Liverpool to just fall apart, and that probably has to happen this coming week.
Yeah.
And like you say, I'm not confident of that. If that happens, all bets are off. If they get even just 1 point from these two games, then I think we're alive with something. But it needs to be a really bad fall off, because like you say, Arsenal aren't in a position where they're going to get maximum points between now and the international break. It's not going to happen, is it?
Well, no, it feels unlikely. But if you've got Mikel Merino, who knows, mate? Who knows? You can always.
I love it.
I mean, it's going to be that win against Leicester is basically going to have to be the blueprint for pretty much every Arsenal win between now and the international break. You know, as I was watching it unfold, there was like the first half. My God, that first half was so bad, mate. It was so bad.
Yeah.
I've never. I mean, the away fans were magnificent, but I've never heard a home support so quiet as in that first half. It was just like, 12:30 kickoffs are bad enough at the best of times, but when the football's so horribly turgid from both sides as it was just such a strange atmosphere in there. All you could hear was the away fans, and it was just like a kind of training ground game you're watching. And it wasn't good. But that's basically what Arsenal are going to have to do between now and the end of the until Saka and Martinelli come back. Just find a way to win. It's probably not going to be pretty at times, but you just got to find a way to win. Whether that's Marino doing what he did, whether that's Nwaneri doing something spectacular and open a game up, whether it's a set piece. Just keep yourself in it. I mean, the next two games, West Ham's massive, obviously, this weekend, because Arsenal play before City,
great chance for Liverpool.
So there, you can move the gap to within 5 points. 5 points, which isn't bad when you think what it was not so long ago. And then if City do somehow manage to get a result, Arsenal then go to Forest on Wednesday night. And I mean, how big would that game be even for Nottingham Forest as well? So I mean, that'll be a huge game. That you kind of look at that game, I think anyway, is probably the toughest. Even though Arsenal got United and Chelsea to come before the international break, I look at that Forest game away under the lights at the City ground with them only 6 points behind Arsenal. That's going to be a really hard game for Arsenal out of all of them. So yeah, it's a huge fortnight in the title race now.
Yeah, it feels like if it doesn't swing in the direction of a depleted Arsenal now, it won't swing. You never know till you're at the other side.
Yeah, I heard yesterday that after the City game, the weekend, Liverpool have got one Premier League game in 5 weeks, which is mad.
Looking at their fixture list, and I just had it up a minute ago, and it did.
They got the Carabao Cup. They got the Carabao Cup final. You got the international break. So I don't know if that Newcastle game. Apparently, it's like they've got
two. I can see.
Is it
26th of February? Oh, after the Newcastle game.
Is it after Newcastle? Is it?
Yeah, they've got Southampton on 8th of March, and then their next Premier League game is Everton at home on April the 2nd.
That's mad, isn't it? When you think how congested the calendar is, and then suddenly you've got basically 4 week, 5 week.
That's the problem with this whole calendar thing, isn't it? It's been constructed by madmen who just leave all these random spaces in it. I mean, I know some of that's the FA Cup and all that, but it's a mess.
Right. A couple of questions before we wrap this one up for today, mate. Ollie's been in touch. Says, Tommy's injury got me thinking about how the team might look next season. I think it's crucial we make 4 signings in the summer. Striker, central midfielder, defensive midfielder, centre-back. I know everyone will laugh at centre-back. Sell or leave him. Partey, Kivior, Zinni, Tierney, Tommy, Jesus and Sterling. So he says 2 players for every position is ideal. Ryan, Neto. Well, Neto will be leaving. Right back, White Timber. Centre-back, Saliba, Gabriel, new signing, academy player. Left back, MLS Calafiori. Defensive mid, new signing, Jorginho. Yeah, I'd keep him. Jorginho's going. Centre mid, Martin Odegaard, Rice, Marino, new signings. Right wing, Saka and Ethan. Striker, new signing, Havertz. Left wing, Martinelli and Trossard. We know Zubimendi is looking likely for DM. Interesting to hear what everyone thinks for the other positions, and if you think I'm delusional or not along the right lines. Well, yeah, first of all, I think Neto, they're going to have to sign a goalkeeper. There's absolutely no doubt about that. It'll probably end up being Garcia at Espanyol, but we'll wait and see on that. I do think Jorginho is going to go. I think that's looking more and more nailed on that he's probably going to go back to Brazil or go to Brazil in the summer. So Zubimendi comes in, and then it's potentially another midfielder as well, unless you're thinking MLS potentially as another option in there, where obviously you've got Rice who can play. If you're not playing Zubimendi, you can play Rice as a 6, and then and then play someone else at left 8. It's been nice though having Jorginho, Partey, and Rice this season, isn't it? It's given you so many options to be able to do what you want to do in defensive midfield. But can you really?
Funny player no one ever mentions in these is Fabio Vieira.
Yeah,
whether it's a Sell or
or Sambi Lokonga
or Sambi Lokonga.
Yeah,
he's the one with the complicated option, isn't he?
Yeah, he's at Sevilla, who don't tend to take up options, and I think the money that the option is a bit unrealistic for Sevilla. So I'd be very surprised if that ends up being a permanent deal.
There was something out this week about everyone talked about Barcelona's sort of squad cost limits, and Sevilla's are like a few €100,000. So I don't think they're signing Sambi.
No,
I don't think. Well, someone like Jakub Kivior is a complicated one. Just picking him out of that list specifically, I don't think you can lose him. He may want to go, and that will be the real challenge. I think you need to. Mikel Arteta needs to learn from his mentor Pep Guardiola, and when someone says I'd like to leave this football club, not always say okay. Sometimes you've got to say.
It's very hard to keep Kivior, though. Surely it's very hard to keep Kivior this summer. He's just not playing at all.
It's a challenge, real challenge. But then look at the number of signings you have to make and the number of deals you have to do. I think to an extent you just have to play Kivior more. Yeah, that one I find hard because you just don't make that as many signings as we see listed out there. Yeah. I'm sure whichever central midfielder replaces Jorginho will have that versatility to play 6-8, which you also get from Rice. So, everyone looks at this and they write down we need 2 players for every position. No team has 2 players for every position. You can't afford it. You can't keep that many people happy, like we're saying with Kivior. There'll have to be, Timber is a option at centre back. White's an option at centre back. Calafiori's an option at centre back. Yeah. And that's, it's kind of like when managers construct their World Cup squads, the smart ones are always like, well, give me a defender in that covers multiple positions. And that's what Arsenal have. So I think, there will not be that many new additions to defence because they'll just sort of, as they often do, they'll hope that they can keep them all fit.
Yeah.
We always
joke about left backs, but I do feel if Tierney, Zinny, and Kivior go in the same window, Arsenal are going to have to sign left back. They are, which will be quite funny. The first 2 signings of the summer, when they need a striker, are going to be a goalkeeper and a left back.
My other suspicion is that no one really wants Zinchenko. I think he's so particular that Arsenal might not really get a taker for him.
No. Well, Jesus isn't going to go. Jesus is listed there, but he's not going to go anywhere, is he? Because he's not going to be back till.
Same with Tomiyasu.
Yeah, same with Tomiyasu. So those 2 are going to be sticking around for the second half of the season, no doubt about that. Interesting that we've spent so long talking about how many years now that we need competition for Saka, but basically now we've just unearthed that competition from the academy, and you don't really have to worry about now. Now it's more on the left hand side where you're looking at rather than the right hand side. So in here, I think it's Ollie that says striker, centre midfield, defensive midfielder, centre back. I absolutely think a left wing option because we don't know what's going to happen with Trossard. Yeah, we don't know what's happening with Trossard, but I think that's definitely an area where Arsenal will look to strengthen as well as a central striker.
Yes, 100%. Because that's what a lot of the time people think about. Oh, we need that sort of depth piece for below Saliba and Gabriel. 1, that's really hard to buy. 2, I think you just need to be. Your approach needs to be right now with someone like Martinelli. You're great. We really like you, but we think we can do better. Or we're going to look to do better. And that's how you kind of, for my mind, you should always be thinking about upgrading the starting 11, and that pushes someone like Martinelli would then become cover for whoever the new left winger is, and cover for the right winger.
Not talking about selling Martinelli, Martinelli then just drops back to be a fantastic option on the bench or starting games when you're rotating. Yeah, absolutely. And he's also covered for the right hand side as well. As if he's not having to play left wing, starting left wing all the time, he can easily bring him on during the game as a right hand side. So yeah, I think that's it's definitely been a busy summer. We say it every single summer, though, don't we? God, it's going to be a massive summer this for Arsenal. Going to be a busy one. What they do need to do is get an actual sporting director in place pretty sharpish because the summer is coming around pretty quickly, and that would absolutely help. I do think it will happen fairly quickly, but That's absolutely essential. Right, one more now before we wrap things up. Brian says, I don't see why Saka and Nwaneri can't share both wings while starting. Rafinha is having a Ballon d'Or season on the left of Barcelona's attack. Him and Yamal also switch flanks in game a lot, despite being left-footed. We've been speaking about this a lot in the week about when Nwaneri comes back. When Saka comes back, it's like, what do you do with Ethan? He's playing so well. Obviously, he's a young kid, so as a lot of people have pointed out on this channel, it's like, well, the good thing is when Saka does come back, we've then got brilliant rotation options of not having to play Saka every game. You can play Nwaneri, not having to play Odegaard every game. You can play Nwaneri, and you rotate those guys over on the right-hand side. But some people have been pointing out, can we use potentially Ethan on the left and get them all on this? Because sometimes, I get rotation obviously is really important, and Ethan is very, very young. But when you see him on the pitch, it's going to be very hard for Arteta not to use him quite a lot still, because he's so good and he makes things happen. Could you ever see him playing on the left? It's hard because his natural thing is that cut inside on the left foot, get the ball in like he did for Marino's goal, or shoot like he did so close to scoring, that trademark goal we've already seen from him. Can you see him making any sort of impact on the left at all?
I mean, I think Brian there makes such a good point. I hadn't thought about it, and we all sort of think about Ethan as a striker, but I think in the end, like, if you give good players enough time together in those sort of systems, they will probably figure it out. And yeah, I really like the idea. It will be a different sort of Nwaneri, and in my head, I don't quite see what it is I would get from there that I'd really want. When, like you say, he's so good at cutting in, making those shooting angles for himself on the left, but equally, he's such a talent that at some stage you've got to be having a view of, like, let's try and work things out, let's try things with him, and if they fail, then they fail, and you've still got many other places you can use him. I think I'd like to see him get a run out when Saka's playing as the sort of Trossardy style centre forward. I think that would be my first thing I'd look at. But if when Saka comes back, Trossard's in great form, then yeah, let's get Nwaneri at left wing. I don't think it's beyond him, because he's a good, smart player. I mean, I would maybe say the same thing about Saka too. Not least because if Ethan's in good form, anyone, even Bukayo Saka, should have to earn back their spot in the 11. I feel like I would maybe give Saka a pass there, but yeah, I'd be intrigued by seeing either of them on the left wing. Something different as well, and that left wing has never quite clicked since 22-23.
No, it hasn't. It definitely feels like it's not going to be too long until Arteta's got a real, some difficult decisions to make, because the rise of Ethan, just how quickly he is performing. Yes, he's young, so there's no rush, and you do have to protect him, but you also need to play your best players. And Ethan Nwaneri is already showing that he's one of Arsenal's best players in attack. And
are you saying sell Saka?
No, of course I'm not. God, are you kidding? No, but it's just that decision, that of like how, say, Gareth Southgate at the Euros, when he had all those players who could play in the same position, like, how do I fit them all in the same team? And obviously he got it wrong in terms of what he chose with Foden out on the left. It just didn't work and all that. But you can understand why he does want his those sort of best players in the team. And Arteta is going to have to work something out, because how do you play Odegaard, Saka, Nwaneri at the moment in the same team? It's like, what are the options? Obviously, I still think probably Saka right. Is there a shout where if you've got a Zubimendi or Rice as a 6 that you could play, you could shuffle Odegaard over to that left 8 role and have Nwaneri in the sort of right 8 role,
or Nwaneri at the left 8.
Yeah,
they've had good left footers there.
Yeah, if you want to go more attacking, certainly in home games and stuff where you don't need a Rice and a Zubimendi, or next season if Zubimendi signs, obviously, is that an option that we're going to see more and more, which I think would be quite exciting as well. It'll be very interesting to see how Odegaard and Ethan link up centrally, I think. And I don't think it's going to be long before Arteta is going to be facing these questions a lot of, like, what do you do? How do you get these players in the same team? Because Ethan is he was so good at Leicester. What was so impressive against him at Leicester was how bad Arsenal were in that first half, or how bad everyone else on that pitch was in that first half. Declan Rice aside, and yet he still managed to shine. So it's not a case of him shining when everyone else around him is playing well. When everyone else around him is struggling, he's still shining, and still capable of doing stuff on his own. He's a hell of a talent. He really, really is.
can I ask you the question that everyone really wants to know, and it's much more important than this nonsense. What shirt number should he get when he signs his pro deal or his new deal? There's 2 that are out there.
What are even out there at the moment?
10's available.
10 is available. That was Emil, wasn't it? Yeah.
14's available, I think.
Yeah, Eddie's. I mean, he'll want 10, I imagine, won't
like
he?
him at 14.
Yeah, surely he'll want 10, I imagine. Yeah. Well, giving Emil 10 didn't exactly work out that well.
Yeah. Is the 10 shirt cursed yet? Yeah, the 10 shirt's cursed, isn't it?
Ever since William Gallas took it.
Oh, you think about it, yeah. You've had Gallas.
Surefire way to curse a shirt puts William Gallas in it.
There'll be someone in between I've forgotten, but then Wilshere gets it. Kind of his best days are in 19, aren't they? Ozil takes it for pretty much like Mesut Ozil in exile period.
Yeah.
Again, best days in the 11. Smith Rowe, most of his best days in 32.
Mm-hmm.
Don't take 10, Ethan. Don't take it.
Well,
I think maybe retire it and put it
didn't work out well for Eddie.
Statue.
14 didn't work out well for Eddie. So if they're maybe they need to look at another one. Look, mate, I think that's a good time to call it for today. Thank you very much for joining me this morning and not this afternoon. I hope we've managed to wake you up with this show. We'll be back next week. What's going on next week? We've got Forest on Wednesday, so it'll be a Thursday show again next week, won't it? No doubt.
Yeah.
So yeah, where are you at the weekend?
City, Liverpool.
Oh, big one. You are honestly.
I did want to do.
You need to move to Manchester, mate. You're at the Etihad so much.
Well, my logic is when we quite soon move to North London, I will never not be at the Emirates, so right. I can probably avoid it now.
Okay, cool. All right, well, enjoy that one, mate. And thank you, everyone, for watching and for listening. I'll be back in the morning tomorrow to do one of my usual shows. We've also got Mikel Arteta's press conference coming up tomorrow. That kicks off at 1 p.m. at London Colney. So keep your eyes peeled from all the latest from that. Until then, have a great day, everyone. Cheers, James. I'll speak to you soon, mate.
Speak soon. Bye-bye.